of the dirtiest topics within preparedness has got to be waste management. It's a dirty topic, a messy topic. No one wants to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about it, but we should touch base on this subject from time to time. It's a very important subject. It deals with hygiene, disease prevention, a host of other things. You prevent attracting animals to your home, attracting desperate people to your home, lots of things. So you got to keep garbage under control during a disaster or a crisis or SHTF. You have to have a plan. In this part 1, I'm just going to briefly talk about urban areas and the challenges and some of the options you may have. So this is mostly for those who have an apartment or a condo. You may or may not have access to some type of land or property. A lot of people have in apartment complexes a common area, an area that they can walk their dog, or they can have a picnic, or some of them have walking paths. I had a walking path and a tennis court and a workout facility at one of my apartments when I was younger, when I was going to college. And so it just depends on the facility that you're living at. You may have some access to land. And why is this important? Because of your options, you're going to have pretty much limited solutions if you don't have access to land in dealing with your garbage. Because if you don't have a place to burn your garbage or bury your garbage, then you're forced to store your garbage. Now let's take each one individually and talk about them in an urban setting. If you have to burn garbage, and it's not the worst idea, just be careful on what you're burning. Know what is and is not toxic. If you have a bunch of plastics, don't burn that. And it's not just because you don't want to get sick off of it or make other people uncomfortable and make them sick too, but you don't want to attract attention to yourself as well. You don't want to pollute the air. You don't want to pollute the ground and all that, because you may need the ground to grow stuff at a later date. You just never know. So burning can take care of part of the problem, but it's not always like the complete solution, because once again, there's toxic stuff that we can't burn, or at least we shouldn't burn. And there's materials in our waste that will not actually break down just because they heat from a campfire or a fire that we can make with just twigs and stuff. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be hot enough at all. So things like metal or alloys and things like that, we're just not going to even try to burn those. So we have to set those aside. If I were you and I was thinking about burning products at an apartment complex, I would not do it alone. Because you're going to stand out and people are going to start judging you, and it could be a big mess. What I would do, though, is go unit to unit and say, hey, we all have the same problem. We have this crisis situation. There's no trash removal, and the dumpsters are full. We can't just keep throwing things next to the dumpster. We have to start doing something. I think that we should burn some garbage just to kind of minimize what kind of garbage load that we have. And if you enforce, in number, get together, 10, 20, 30 of you, it's going to be something that most people won't question. They'll be like, okay, they're just doing something. So in force or in number, you would want to get together, and I would do this at night. So once again, it's not as visible as during the day. People won't see the smoke so much, and keep the fires small. If you have metal drums or barrels or garbage cans, you could use those as containers to put your garbage in and burn it. And I would also consider digging down into having different fire pits, to or so feet. It would be pretty good, amount of clearance there to actually make a fire and put garbage on. It just depends on how much garbage you have available. Now, so basically having some type of container to burn in, or a controlled area, or to dig down and have fire pits. The one thing we have to be kind of mindful of is that, okay, in the middle of winter, this is probably going to be a better idea to burn than to bury, because the wintertime can make the ground so cold, or during winter, the ground is frozen. Let's just say that. And so it makes a lot more sense to burn some things than to just try to bury it. And so let's go ahead and merge right into, burial. If you don't have any kind of access to land or property, then obviously you just can't bury things. But if you do decide to do such, I would definitely bury your garbage deep enough that animals can't just dig it out. In my area, it's pretty safe when you bury something between 18 to 21 inches, 18 to 24 inches, something like that range. There's a good range there. So about 1.5 feet to 2 feet is pretty decent out here. It may be different for you. You may have different types of animals that can dig deeper than that, or they do dig deeper. So you're going to be mindful of that. Also, you want to dig and bury your garbage as far as possible away from your water sources. So if you have a pond or a lake or a river or stream or a well, anything that you're pretty much using, you don't want to contaminate that with your garbage that can seep through the ground and get into your water sources. So obviously you want to have your garbage buried as far away from your water sources and at lower elevation, and if you will, downstream from where you are. Downstream. So there are some ideas there about burial. And once again, you don't want to bury toxic stuff. You can definitely bury human waste, things that are biodegradable, things that break down, no problem. And you can also bury the wood ash or whatever ash that you have from burning stuff too. Now, in terms of another tactic, that you could deploy, if you can't burn or bury, then you're really left with this last one for the most part. It's going to be different in part two. If you live in a suburban or a rural area, you're going to have a few more options. But here in an urban area, the last option that I would say that would be the most viable for a lot of people, especially in the short term, but it's going to be something that you really don't want to just completely rely on. So you definitely want to plan, and that is to store your garbage, but to store it in the most hygienic way possible. And so first off, you'd want to double or even triple bag your garbage and put that garbage into containers that are sealable, as airtight as possible. And you can actually find garbage cans that really have a good seal, and they have clasp on the side and they lock down. So if you have to, or if you're forced to put your garbage outside in these containers, animals can't get into it. They may not smell what's in there, and so forth. So it won't be attracting, potential animals that have diseases, and also animals that may be a threat to us as humans. And so if you're forced, though, to keep the garbage in the actual apartment or condo, your living quarters, keep it as far away from you as possible. Keep it in a room that you don't normally use, or somewhere that's just far away from where you actually hang out the most. And if your containers don't completely seal up, then use tape. If you have like Gorilla Tape or other type of like a duct tape, use that, and use as many layers as possible to really close that up so you don't have to smell the garbage, and basically just keeps things more sanitary. Always keep the containers as clean as possible. Wipe them down on a regular basis, just in case if there is any type of leak, you can minimize any type of contamination in your home. You don't want that. So this is just kind of a touch and go video on this topic. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.